Well, hi from Cord Art, Mike here. I wanted to try and show how we're going to make the elephant's trunk to my project. I've just tied a stopper knot or a diamond knot into the centre of a 24-inch piece of cord. Got it nice and tight and in shape. Cut the ends off, melted them. We've ended up with about, about 9 inches either side here. A little bit uneven in ends because of the way the knot's tied. We're now going to grab 6 feet of cable or cord. Going to wrap it round the end, just like so. And I'm going to pass a pin through the actual 6-foot piece and the 2 pieces that come off of the knot. And that's just to hold our place. So we've got this sort of effect. Yep. That's the effect that I'm after. Then what we're going to do is use the 2 bits that are hanging down from the knot as the core, and we're going to tie a Virgo knot down that core. Now I want a really tight knot. The tighter I can get it, the more bend there is for the sort of bendiness of the trunk. But I'm going to do a couple of Virgo knots and hopefully not getting too much of a twist. I won't show you it all because it actually does take quite a bit of time just to do something like 5 to 6 inches of Virgo knot. But I've followed this as off the video that I've been watching. Hopefully this all stays in line with you. So that's the core coming down through. I've looped, got my pin going through the top there, holding all those 4 strands together. I've come down, looped this one from that side, looped it down here, looped this one back over, so we've got that effect. Now, as I say, keeping that as a core, we're going to just open that slightly between the 2 loops. Going to bring the right hand one up through that gap in the middle. This is where the twist gets me. Up through that loop in the middle. We're going to go down through the core and out through that bottom loop we've just made to the side. So that is the first part of the tie. There. We're going to do the same with the other side. Going to come back up with the left hand side cord, up through that centerpiece, down through the core again, and out through the loop that we've just made. Yeah. Then it's a matter of tightening. Now, the way that I've been tightening this, I've just had a bit of a trial go. These big loops that we've now pushed together, they've got to come out first really. So we're just going to pull them out into the knot. Also that one, out into the knot. And then we're going to pull on our main working ends so that we get a little bit of that slack out, like so. Still very loose, so it's a matter of working at this knot, just playing around with it. I'm still got my eye on these two looping out the sides from the pin. So I'm going to tug as much of that through on that one. As I tug all that through, this cord here is now going to take up the slack, if you like so. So I've worked that slack around that loop. I know that then I can pull the main working end down and tighten it up. We'll do the same on the other side. Pull this cable through here. As much as we can. And then this one will pull up the slack. There's the slack in that one, or a little bit of it anyway. And then we pull down the working end on that side. It is getting tighter. But what I've found I've had to do is get a pair of snipe nose pliers and go through that again. So what I've been doing is pulling as much through as I can that way, pulling as much as I can out of it that way, and then down through the working end. And it's getting tighter. Now I'll do the same again to this side, pull across the knot from this side of the pin. Oops, nearly had my nose off. That side of the working of the pin. Then we're going to pull this one out, like so. And then we're going to pull it down through the working end. So we've got the two working ends towards the back now, the two standing ends coming down like that. We can do away with this pin now rather than get it stuck into us, because we've held our place. It looks quite neat round the back. It's just one loop. So that's the first knot of the Virgo knot. So we're then going to go on to the second one, which is a lot easier because we haven't got pins and things in the way. So left hand working end across the core, right hand working end across the core, giving us this sort of heart shape. We've got the cross on the core with a crossover of the two pieces of thread across the core. So with the right hand one again, we're going to go around this working end, back up through the middle, pull through, down back through the working end this side of the crossover, and through this loop on the side. Pull in a little bit of slack there. And we're going to do the same to the left hand side. Keeping outside the working end, we'll come up through the center of the working ends themselves, giving us that loop. Down through the middle and out through that loop that we've just made. So as we tighten it up again, there's those two loops at the top. Now, as I say, we want to get rid of those. So that one comes through like so. It comes out through that one, I believe, or that one. That one comes out through the center of that one. We're going to pull as much as we can from the left-hand side top. Bring that one back through. So that's our slack coming up through the center of the knot. Grab hold of the working ends. One tightens there, one tightens to there. You can see the pattern starting to come. But I'm not happy with that. I want it to be as tight as I can get it. So as I say, I'm going to start pulling through with my pliers, pulling down on this loop as tight as I possibly can. When I've pulled down as tight as I possibly can, I know it's going to come up through there. Pull it up through there as tight as you can. Grab hold of the working end, which I believe is that one. Tighten up. Again, pull this slack from across there over to this side, out through this part of the tie, and pull down with the working end. Now you can see that we're starting to get the pattern now, and it's the pattern of what I'm trying to achieve. I'm gonna click off here and do probably about 7 or 8 of those knots, seeing if I can get them as tight as possible, and I'll come back and show you. Well, here we are. I've done a total of 8 knots, Virgo knots. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've no idea if it's enough. It looks to be enough. Now they are all quite tight. I did use the grips to actually have a go at that. But if we get hold of the head, we can get an idea that, well, if we stick a pin in through there, we can get some idea that we're getting close. Do you see what I mean about the arch? I mean, when I've actually got it pulled on, that will come out like so, which is quite effective. Believe that I'm going to put some wire in 2 of these, only for about 1 inch long, and they'll go into the body, into the head. These 2 I might cut off about there and do a cobra down those in white so that we got tusks. I think that might work, but early days still. But I'll leave it there for the moment because I want to push on with doing a bit more. I can't really tell if that's a long enough trunk until it's married up with the body. And in fact, once the body has got some legs on it, I'll be able to get a perspective. It might be that I need another couple of knots on there, so I'm not going to cut short just yet. I'm going to leave that as a minor project and push on with possibly putting 3 legs on, because I'd like to show how to tie one of the legs and affixing the head, and I'll do that on tape as well. So until I get my thoughts together, I'll carry on and I'll see you shortly. Well, hi there. Trying to make the eyes this morning. Got a nice reel of emerald green ribbon there. Underneath a piece of A4 folded over paper, just a bit of sticky glue or tacky glue to keep them together. So I've got a double thickness of paper. I've marked out basically the shape of the eyes that I want, the whites of the eyes, and cut out a couple of coloured pieces to go in the centre. I've got them together at the moment with a couple of pins, just for perspective. But now I'm going to try and surround the whites of the eyes with a grey micro cord, bit of black micro cord around the green, and then the pupil made out of, again, black micro cord. Let's see how that turns out. Well, hello cord lovers, welcome back to Cord Art. Today we're going to try and finish the project with the elephant. It doesn't look all that complete. I have pushed it on somewhat, and I'll explain as I go along, But as I said in the last video, today I'd like to finish off putting the legs on. I have done 3 legs, three crown knots coming from each corner of the body. We've got the 4th one to do, which I intend on doing on this video. You can see that I've got some nice little boggles on the bottom, Turk's heads. I think they look really quite good as feet. And it just so happens I've got the 4th one tied. I don't want to include tying the boggle in this video, as it takes me quite a while because I have to do it off of a video myself. So let's push on with doing the next leg. So what do we need? We need a piece of wire, which I've bent over, which is about 4 inches in length. Just bent the ends over slightly there and there. So that's about 4 inches in length. A piece of cord. Now it's just melted one end, it's still got its core inside. What I want to try and do is push that inside all the way down. Now I found if you start it, hold quite tight to the top, stop the threads bulging out inside, you stand a better chance of getting the whole thing inside. And that's just about right. That's gone in quite nicely. It's a bit long, so we'll see if we can push it right down in. Right, tools. Bit too much cord on that 4-inch piece of wire, so we'll cut a little bit off, not too much, and hopefully if I've got gas in the lighter, that's not quite right. We're not there anywhere near in enough at the moment. Bring that back up. Just work it into the actual piece of cord that we're going into. I think that's as much as we're going to get, so we'll trim a bit more off. So we've got our 4-inch piece of wire covered. Just mount that over. There's a bit of flex there in the end, so what I'll probably do is place that end in and then cut off what I don't need on the end. So it's a matter of keeping everything neat and in perspective. I know that with this leg I started off with one cord outside and was just above this cord here. So we'll have a hole going down in there, hopefully, straight into the body. So this is going to be the front left leg. Yeah. Once we've got that in, we'll feed the core inside. Not easy on this one. I've done the other 3 and they all worked out quite well. I'm not happy with that, the depth that it's gone in. So let's play around with that hole for just a minute. Open up that just a little bit more. Now we'll see if we can get it back in. Yeah, that's gone in a lot deeper. Now what we want to do is, see, we're only going to be travelling to about here, so we can cut that last bit off. Now, what we need to do now is have 2 pieces of cord mounted over at the ends, and they're about 3 feet in length. I've got one already 3 foot length attached to my fid. Now, what I'd like to try and do is go underneath this cord here and come up underneath this front one here. So, a little bit of fiddling around, and if you've got a sharp fid like I have, you have to watch out that you don't sort of stick it into the threads. Of course, off film, it's a doddle. I'll just switch off there, get my 2 cords in so that I don't waste too much time on this, and I'll come straight back to you. Well, apologies for that. Yeah, I was under stress and I couldn't quite get the cords where I wanted them to go. But if you look just there, I've gone underneath the first cord there and the first cord going up the body. Come the other side of my piece of wire, and I've gone under the first cord again and the third cord in. Yep. Now, these legs are 2.5 inches in length from body to the end of the foot. So I've just measured there. I've got 3 inches, but I've got the soft bit at the end, so I've got enough to trim off afterwards. So what we're going to do now is tie a crown knot. A crown knot I find is a soothing knot. Take the fid off of there. As long as you keep everything in sequence, it's a good sound knot. So we're just going to go over one, bring the bottom one over one, that bottom one over one, and then we're just going to loop down into the first loop. Just gradually bring all those together. It's a bit of a bind sometimes when you've got other obstacles in the way, but it's all achievable. Nice tight knot. It's worth spending a bit of time getting the knot that you want, and you can see that we're getting that nice square now. Backside looks a little bit, well, I won't say it's dainty. It should be dainty, but it's not. But I don't know what point I'm trying to make there. It's just that using this much force on everything does distort other bits around you. So there's a bit of making up to do. So that's the first knot. Over, 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 and then down through. Yep. Tighten up on that one. You can actually feel this knot. Feel when it's tight. There's a point where you feel, well, it's not going to go any tighter than that really. So just a little bit more on that one. I can feel that one click into position. So we're okay there. Again, over, the one underneath, over that one, the one over underneath, over that one, and then the last one down through. Get rid of that piece of ribbon off the end of there, down through. As I say, tighten back up again. more time you take on this knot, the better it looks, really. I have done a few of these and they don't look very neat. They sort of go out of shape. But if you keep them nice and tight, you get the effect. Another knot over that one which was under now goes over, that one which was under now goes over, and then the last one that goes over and through. Right, because we've got quite a lot to get through on this video, as I say, I want to finish the body off. I want to introduce you to what I've done with the head. I'll travel up here to where I need to put on my Turk's head, because we're going to have to tighten that up pretty strong as well on the next foot. So I'll click off there and I'll come back to you when I've travelled up 2.5 inches. I think it was 2.5 inches. I'll have another measure in a minute. And I'll come back to you. Right, so I'm back with you. I've just completed that leg. We've travelled up the centre core, which was 2.5 inches long. It was slightly longer, so I've just trimmed that. I've trimmed and mounted the 4 pieces left, which was very minimal, as you can see. So 3 foot on each cord is just enough. So what I intend on doing now is putting my woggle onto the foot. Now, the back of the elephant is, well, this is the head of the elephant, this is the back. So any sort of singeing, I really want to go to the back. So if I offer that in as like a shoe, yeah, I've obviously now got to tighten that up. And my usual trick is to actually get it tight as I can and then use the grips on it. So I'm gonna fast forward to that now. As I say, I haven't included making this woggle or the Turk's head in this because there are plenty of really good videos on how to make these woggles. Okay, so I'll come back to you shortly. Well, welcome back. As you can see, I've done the 4th leg in a crown knot, finishing off with the woggle, as I call it. Really quite tight. There's no need for any glue on these whatsoever. I mean, if you actually get in there and pull them round tight, they take up the shape and look just nicely like elephant's feet. 3 more things to do to this body before we can actually go forward to the head. One is to put its shank piece on. Now that has to be, you have to be happy exactly where that is. So what I tend to do is stick 3 pins. See, it's off there. It needs to be like so, I believe. So we'll stick 1 pin there. Another one there. And 1 there. Now we'll just size it up, make sure that we know where everything is, and I think that's okay. That looks pretty good. This is the front of the animal, and this is the back. So I think we can go ahead and glue that into position. So we'll leave the bottom pin in for the moment. Get rid of the top 2 pins. And then we'll give it a liberal amount of glue. just around there, bit down there a little bit, bring it around nicely, glue that home. Then we can remove the last pin. Drop more super glue. And it just finishes it off, covers over the joint, makes it look a little bit more realistic. Right, so we've got to join the head onto the body. Because it's such a easygoing core, we can force a hole into it. We can cut a 4-inch piece of cord and again put a piece of bent over wire inside. It's got all of its threads inside, so again I've just pushed it down through, and the idea is that one will go so. So about half of it into the body and half of it sticking out, ready to receive the head. So let's make the tail. I've made a hole in the back there, nice and centre, for the tail. What I intend on doing is cutting a short piece of grey and gutting it, threading a piece of black onto a fid, which will pass through, and pull it through. Now we'll take the fid off and we'll put it to about there. So there's about half an inch sticking out through. Now the other end of this, we want about an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter, cut off just there. And as I say, the black is also gutted. So we've got about 2.5 inches to 3 inches of grey gutted, and then slightly longer piece. This end is melted over on this gutted black cord. Now what I'd like to do is yet another piece of wire bent over. Now that's going to go right into the melted down piece, if I can get it in there. Just work it in, and now that's come to where I want it. Now I don't want the grey to move, so I'm just going to dab a little bit of super glue so that grey stays to black. So how do we get the fluffy bit for the tail? Got quite a solid structure there now. We can actually bend it around when we need to. This bit's going to be actually going into the body. This bit's going to be the tail. So with a pin, what we need to do is now start unraveling that cord so it looks a bit like hair, because this is going to be the back part of the tail. Yeah, it's coming now. I'll take it more or less so that it's level. And then I'm quite fortunate because I've got one of these little wire brushes here, which is for suede shoes. So I tend to give it a good old brush. I can see that the metal is still showing there a little bit. So what I think we'll do is just give it a little bit of super glue this end as well. Stop it unraveling. Fortunately, it's cheap super glue. Now, the idea is to actually make it into a shape something like that. So again, if I just squeeze it all together, touch of super glue on the end, and bring it together. Now I am sticking. There we go. That's the sort of effect that I'm after. Not too bad at all. So with the tail, hopefully we can get it straight in there. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. We'll bend that down so that its baby can grab hold of it if it needs to. Just a little touch of super glue on the join there, and I'm happy with that. So for all intents and purposes, we're ready. Oh, I mean, we could play around with the legs a little bit. I mean, it doesn't look too bad at all, actually. Right, so where have we got to with the head? I will at this point put on a small video that I made about making its trunk. You'll see that I've added another fixture to the trunk, which is yet another woggle, and it's also got some tusks. So let me introduce you to the head, and we can talk a little bit more about this. But as I say, before this, I will show a video about its trunk and its eyes. So here we have it. I decided, an executive decision was not to put in any inners. The reason that I've decided not to do that was once I offered the large angel's wings onto the elephant, I found that I could shape them quite nicely and get quite a good effect. It didn't look as though it was going to take off at any minute. This is a much better effect, and by doing so I couldn't really fit those brown pieces in comfortably because there's a nice bit of a bend there, comes round, and as I say, we can shape it nicely like that. So that's that. As I say, will be a tut on the trunk shortly, or just previously. But did a Turk's head around the base. You'll also notice that I turned the trunk upside down. It was going down in the previous, well, in the little video about the trunk, it was going down, but another executive decision. I liked it going up. Tusks are quite easy. Let me just talk about how I fitted the trunk to the head. There was 4 strands coming off of it. The 2 bottom ones were cut off and melted. The 2 higher ones were cut short to about 1 inch long, and a piece of wire inserted in each one. 2 holes made into the head, and then the whole of the trunk with the Turk's head on there forced in and then glued. Bit of super glue there. The ears are also held on by super glue. It's got wire that goes into the head that way and wire that goes into the head that way, as the main securing. But yeah, there's a little bit of super glue involved. Putting the ears on, putting the trunk on, certainly with the eyes. Now the eyes are really down to how you want them to look. But as I say, there's a small video about the eyes as well. The tusks, they've turned out quite well actually. Just a piece of 550 cord threaded through underneath before I actually glued the trunk on. Then cobraed down, well, cobraed from this end to the body, to the head, and same this side, and then a king cobra coming back halfway. Then I've got a little bit of grey, which I've put a cobra around the king cobra, if you like. Gives it that little bit of effect. Unfortunately, I didn't have any micro cord this colour, so it's slightly darker grey. Talking about colours and usage of cord, you'll notice that the feet on this one is slightly different. This has got a silver tilt to it. The reason being is this is the first project that I've actually used over 100 feet of cord. It's about 116 feet all told, having in mind to make a Turk's head, it's about 4 feet for each one. So the eyes, as I say, it's a personal thing, how you make them, but these ones were made with a piece of white paper, a piece of green ribbon, and then a piece of black microcord on top of that, surrounded by grey microcord to give the effect of the elephant's eyes. Now we will now have a go at fitting this head to that body. I just wanted to make sure that the holes that I've made in the past are still there, which I think they are. So we'll see if we can marry these together. So that's going to be the overall effect, and it's just a matter of being happy with how you have got things. I mean, do we have his head square? Do we have a slight tilt one way to the other? I like a slight tilt that way, to be quite honest. So that's what I'll probably be going for. So that piece of wire that we've put in isn't nearly enough just to keep it where I want it. So again, this is going to be a super glue moment. Right, now I'm working by lamps here, so I have to be pretty careful because I usually end up getting covered in super glue. And for anybody who doesn't know, polystyrene doesn't like super glue. It really hates it. Oh, squashing his tail a bit, but now I'm going to give it a good old push. See if we can get it to stick where I want it. Got a slight twist, which is good. I'm just going to reinforce a bit of super glue here and there. Make sure that his head doesn't come off at a later date. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So, quite a bit of super glue knocking about there, especially on my hands. So I'm going to have to stop touching things for a moment. But the good thing is that he is super glued, or she should we say, because this is Mama, isn't it? It's not a he, it's a she. And hopefully too much super glue. but we're getting there. So I'm going to click off there. I will be actually posting the elephant online to the groups that I belong to, so you'll be able to see photographs online, but I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with that. The eyes could have been a bit greener, I don't know. There's always something that's not quite right at the end, but yeah, I'm quite happy with the outcome of that. So, well, thanks for listening to me, and thanks for taking an interest. So this is the third of 3 videos on how to make this elephant. I'll post the link to the 2 others when I post this onto YouTube. Okay, all the best. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.